This weapon right here I've fallen in love with. There's a lot of fun gameplay in the background, and it's something I can tell you for certain. It's going to be a part of my personal usage going forward. It is good. Crazy good. I didn't want the review process to end, and I have to move on to another weapon, but I'm ready to talk about it. Sometimes a weapon just clicks with you. You pick it up, it feels great, you go. Liminal Vigil was that for me. There's a chance it's going to be that for you too. It has great stats, perks, feel. It's a reward from the final boss encounter in the new Spire the Watcher dungeon. Remember, you can farm the encounters over and over, get new gear that you hadn't obtained before. So if you want or can, farm the final encounter for Liminal Vigil drops. Is it worth it? I believe that it is. There's only 2 roles that you're going to be seeing in all of this gameplay. They're both awesome. You can see how I'm using them, and I have a full explanation of how these roles are working, what to look for, how they're performing at their top level. So the first one, small bore ricochet tap the trigger Desperado, stability masterwork. This thing's a beast. Now the second one, extended barrel, high cal, Headstone rangefinder, handling masterwork. I am using this one exclusively with the Osmio Stasis warlock. More on that later. Big interactions there. This is a Tex Mechanica sidearm, its own unique hipfire reticle, its own unique trait for a Tex weapon, Tex balance stock. Damaging targets while firing from the hip increases handling, reload, and movement speed while aiming down sight. So it takes 4 hits from the hip. This is a 2-burst sidearm, so 2 full bursts is the 4 hits. It's a really good buff. But in practice, for the Crucible, you hip fire when they aren't looking at you. You hip fire while they're rushing. You hip fire from the air. You don't necessarily just want to hip fire. I tried, and I did get the perfect duel. This is what it looks like with technically the perfect duel with this trait. Hip firing, going to aim down sights, then you have the fast reload, the next gunfight, you have all those buffs for it. Not practical though. Hip fire when the opportunity is there and not necessarily looking for it. For PvE though, sure, absolutely. Especially when you're close to the end of the mag, make sure those last 2 bursts are from the hip, that way you can get the fast reload and start dumping out damage again. This thing is Stasis, the base stats are fine. These all have the same trait. They're a hard-hitting 2-burst, big damage, forgiving, very suboptimal stability handling and reload. Always been that way. Where they lack, again, they gain in the hard-hitting ease of use. I first want to talk about this tap the trigger Desperado roll, and I'm telling you right now straight up, I did not want Desperado on this. At all. If I did, there needed to be a sequence of events on the weapon for it to be okay. I wanted kill clip, but those events happened. This brings up the first thing about this sidearm. There seems to be a lot of debate about tap the trigger, necessary or not. My opinion, yes and no. 99% of the time, yes. Some rolls, no. Tap the trigger, one of the biggest buffs on a weapon, period. Doesn't matter what it is. Especially on short burst fire weapons, like Liminal Vigil. And there haven't been too many sidearms with tap the trigger. The moment that you tap that trigger, pull the trigger, it is plus 40 stability. Around 50% help on the recoil. It's going to get to 100 recoil, no problem. It's going to be vertical. And free accuracy. 10% accuracy cone size. All the juice for free. One of the best buffs in the game. It's on a sidearm that pretty much is going to have it every single trigger pull. Too good. So with this perk, we'll look at my roll. I hit the threshold for a min-max. Like small bore ricochet stability masterwork is 66 stability. Right there, it's a 100 stability sidearm. Earlier, I said I did not want Desperado on this. I wanted kill clip, but this is the exception because historically these 2 bursts are spammy. They get the job done. Of course you're looking for crits and crit final blows, but that's not really how these are built. Again, those 3 stats, stability, handling, and reload, are poor, but this is something completely different. I'm having games hitting multiple headshot final blows with a 2 burst. Way easier with 100 stability. That's making Desperado very deadly. A faster TTK to the head or body. Still spammy, but it's coming with heat. This is an outlier. Again, base 39 stability. We're taking it to 100. So with tap the trigger, try to get close to as 60 stability as possible. If there's a choice between small bore and hammer forged, I would actually go small bore. I would gain the plus 7 stability while losing the 3 range there. Ricochet is going to be the best bet when it comes to the magazine. There's also armor piercing for PvE, but even if you don't get any stability perks at all, let's say your options, we've been there, arrowhead or full bore. And then you have alloy mag or appended mag. Like tap the trigger still puts in a ton of work, but it's going to feel a lot better the higher you get that stability stat up. And this one that I have hits at 16.5 meters, right in the base sidearm range. But the value here is the consistency of this thing within the range with its damage. Way more than, let's say, Forgiveness, another 2 burst. You add on rangefinder, this roll would get to 18 meters. And really quick about this thing, Liminal Vigil is on the upper end of sidearm range. Like a full max roll is 18.9 meters. It's a 1.2 times zoom. Drain got hit, it's back in line, other things got hit. This one is up there with them. Like Enigma's Draw, a max range roll, which I have, this is a completely different archetype. This thing has rangefinder, it only gets to 18.5. The max range Peace Bond, which is Iron Reach, rangefinder, full bore, all the things, it gets to 18.9, so it matches. And this thing's gonna have a lot better other stats. So this thing's right there at the top end. It competes, it hangs. So back to tap the trigger. How big of a deal is it? It's a big one. Here's the Headstone roll. It's got 39 stability. This is the base stability of the sidearm. Two things to pay attention to. Number one, as you fire with low stability, I'm on controller here, look at what happens to the reticle. It kind of sucks down. It's kind of harder to duel with, and I don't like that. It's getting very close to the top of the barrel. Now, the second thing on the wall test, 0 recoil help, the weapon's just firing, I'm not touching the stick. Look at how the recoil goes up with the spread of each bullet. Then we have tap the trigger on this 100 stability roll. First thing, continuous fire, that reticle does not dip back down, it stays true, very stable, like I said, very assassin-like. You can crit things up with it. Now to the wall test. No help on the stick, the recoil's just going, major difference. Huge difference, clear as day. So yes, the majority of the time, 99% of the time, for the Crucible, you do want tap the trigger. It's a big deal. There's things like perpetual motion, good perk, but just like in past reviews, we just talked about disparity. Like we have in the same column, rapid hit and outlaw. Since rapid hit is there, you go rapid hit. Perpetual motion's a good perk, but on a sidearm, tap the trigger's there, you go tap the trigger. The one I have right here, the 100 stability Desperado, God roll, 100%. Everything you would want. But past Desperado, rangefinder's gonna work, kill clip's gonna work. It's gonna perform great. It's a random drop, you have 0 control over it, so if you get tap the trigger kill clip, it's gonna be fine. Tap rangefinder. And rangefinder adds about 1.5 meters on the high end. Even though kill clip's 1.5 meters behind, it's kind of balanced with kill clip active, getting that 1.5 meters back, but it's gonna slay within its range. Desperado's gonna keep that TTK too because it's rate of fire. All of these are good. That brings me to the Headstone roll, Headstone rangefinder. There are 25 stasis weapons with Headstone. Liminal Vigil is the only one with Headstone in the third column. As a primary weapon, we did get a linear fusion. It could roll a Headstone chill clip, which is pretty cool. I ended up getting it. But that means, historically here, like the final column is usually the damage perk column. That's where Headstone has lived for these weapons. Now you have that pairing. Headstone kill clip, Headstone swash, Headstone Desperado, or in my case, Headstone rangefinder. But being in the third column goes a long way. I use the Osmiomancy lock a lot in PvE and the Crucible. And this is one of the best Headstone weapons, period, for this setup with the Osmiomancy gloves. And things that you can do with Stasis. And I got asked on Twitter, what does a Headstone weapon do for a warlock, like a crystal? I'm gonna show you. And I do plan on doing a little bit more tidbits like this, like YouTube shorts. There's a ton of things like this, but this is how I set it up. We have 100 Discipline, Osmiomancy, double cold snap, Glacial Harvest, Ice Flare bolts, fragments, hedrons. This is the one and only thing that can get you away from tap the trigger. Because when you freeze someone, you get substantial aim assist, stability, airborne effectiveness, mobility, resilience, recovery. It juices it up. Makes not having tap the trigger okay. That is like the one and only deal. Hedrons. Because the buffs on this base weapon is insane. We have fissures, increased damage, distance of breaking the crystal, shards, breaking the crystal grants grenade energy for the Osmiomancy cold snap, rending. Primary ammo does more to frozen targets, which is what we want because we will be hitting frozen targets. So just with this setup, the moment I freeze someone, I get hedrons. It spawns stasis shards. So I got a buff to the weapon. I'm getting melee energy back because of those shards. I get the Headstone kill. I break the crystal. Now I get grenade energy. Grenade energy, melee energy, massive buffs on the weapon from hedrons. But here's another thing. It happens in the Crucible, but this is mostly for PvE. And this is what's really cool about the warlock. And honestly, I would trade out probably Harvest for Bleak Watcher. But did you know with the Headstone weapon, if enemies are close, you get the final blow, a crystal's gonna form, and it's gonna freeze the next one. Well, when you down that frozen enemy, Ice Flare bolts proc. And I noticed that it doesn't proc the Ice Flare cooldown. At least it takes a long time to get it. But no grenade thrown, no stasis is thrown. Final blow, you could shoot the crystal. With fissures, it will clear. Ice Flare's gonna drop, it's gonna freeze another. And once they're frozen in place, you can crit them again to create another crystal and just keep going. Getting shatter damage and collateral, really cool. Getting all the melee, all the grenade, everything. And you can use the rest of the kit, right? Like maybe Hunger gets more melee back from those shards, whatever it is. This works with any stasis weapon, syncopation, whatever it is, if you have Headstone on it. When it comes to the warlock getting Ice Flare bolts proccing, can also work in the Crucible. And what's so nice about having it be a 2 burst is that one bullet could be the final blow, and the bullet right after, like the frame after, is going to explode the crystal right as it forms. And there's going to be times where if 2 enemies are close together, it's going to encapsulate the second enemy from being frozen as the crystal's coming up and just instantly collaterals because of fissures. You can use the crystals for cover. You can put on chains for damage resist. You could shoot them to get the grenade back. There's a ton you could do. Like, very impressed with this weapon on Stasis because the Osmio lock is all about freezing, cold snaps, and hedrons. And this weapon straight up makes all of that better. Rhyme with overshield, tons of possibilities, but moving on. When you look at the perks in column 3 and 4, I think pretty clear choices come up. Like, sure, we talked about it, like tunnel vision, it's a good perk. Perpetual motion, it's a good perk. But for the weapon, tap the trigger is there. Like when it comes to PvE, we have Pugilist. Threat detector is going to be good. Headstone's going to be good. The last column, kill clip, swash, desperado, surrounded. So like threat surrounded, going to be good. Pugilist surrounded. You know, you saw some of the PvE gameplay, like Headstone Desperado, to really get those bullets out, really get that damage out. There's a ton of things about this weapon that has a place. Really, really good synergistic things going on. I love it. I really do. Like I said, extremely impressed. PvP, it's mostly going to be all about tap the trigger. It really is. Try to get the stability up to as close to 60 as you can. If not, base is going to be fine, but there's a huge difference in 30 stat points, 20 stat points. Because M and K are controller, like a laser beam is a laser beam no matter what input you're on. And again, historically, the shooting experience for these things has never been like this. So 100 stability with accuracy help, it's like no other. It's a big deal. And that's why I do think you should go for it if you haven't really thought about it. I would get one of these. Very unique, it's powerful. And as far as a sidearm, it hits every single check mark you would ever need. Hits everything. It's got the range, it's got the damage, it's got the feel, it's got everything. It does things other sidearms can't do. You can throw in the origin trait if you can. It competes with other sidearms. Pairs well with snipers, pairs well with builds. It's the total package. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about Liminal Vigil down below. I think it's incredible. It's going to be a part of my weapon rotation. It's going to stay with me. It's very good. But I want to hear your thoughts about it. Tell us down below. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.